Have you ever met someone who seems completely obsessed with themselves, constantly fishing for compliments and acting like the world revolves around them? You might roll your eyes and think they're just incredibly self-absorbed. But what if I told you that behind that seemingly bulletproof confidence lies something much more heartbreaking? Today, we're peeling back the layers of narcissistic behavior to reveal the surprising truth about what really drives it. And trust me, it's not what you think. Understanding narcissistic behavior. Before we dive in, I need you to understand something crucial. When most people see narcissistic behavior, they see arrogance, selfishness, and an inflated ego. But here's the plot twist that changes everything. What looks like excessive self-love is actually the complete opposite. It's a sophisticated defense mechanism built to protect a person who, deep down, feels fundamentally broken and unlovable. The impact of childhood experiences. Let me paint you a picture. Imagine a child who grows up walking on eggshells, never knowing if their parent will come home angry or loving, critical or praising. One day they're told they're amazing. The next day they're ignored or torn down for the same behavior. This isn't just confusing, it's psychologically devastating. That child's brain starts working overtime to figure out how to stay safe, how to be worthy of love, and how to avoid the crushing pain of rejection. The development of a false self. Here's where it gets really interesting. The human mind is incredibly resourceful when it comes to survival, even emotional survival. When a child can't rely on their caregivers for consistent love and validation, they start creating an internal system to protect themselves. They begin to develop what psychologists call a false self, a carefully constructed identity designed to get the attention and validation they desperately need. The armor of achievements. Think of it like building armor, but instead of metal, it's made of achievements, charm, manipulation, and grandiose stories. The child learns that being ordinary means being invisible or criticized, so they become extraordinary, at least in their own narrative. They start believing they're special, unique, above others, because accepting their ordinariness feels too dangerous, too close to the worthlessness they fear they really are. The prison of false identity. But here's the tragic part. This armor becomes a prison. The person becomes so invested in maintaining this false image that they lose touch with their authentic self entirely. They can't handle criticism because it threatens to crack the facade and expose the terrified, wounded child underneath. They can't form genuine relationships because they're too busy performing to be real. They can't experience true satisfaction because nothing can fill the void where healthy self-worth should be. Inconsistent parenting and its effects. Now, let's talk about the specific types of childhood experiences that create this pattern. Inconsistent parenting is a big one. When a child never knows what version of their parent they're going to encounter, they develop hypervigilance and people-pleasing behaviors that later morph into manipulative tactics. They learn to read every micro-expression, to anticipate needs, to become whatever they think will keep them safe and loved. Emotional neglect and performance. Emotional neglect is another major factor. This doesn't always look like dramatic abuse. Sometimes it's just parents who are physically present but emotionally unavailable. The child grows up feeling like they have to earn attention and love through performance rather than receiving it as their birthright. They internalize the message that their authentic self isn't enough, that they need to be more, do more, achieve more to matter. The dangers of excessive idealization. Then there's the flip side, excessive idealization without genuine connection. Some narcissistic patterns develop in children who are put on pedestals but never truly seen or known. They're praised for their achievements or appearance, but not loved for their essential self. This creates a person who becomes addicted to admiration, but can never feel truly accepted because they've never experienced unconditional love. The scars of abandonment. Abandonment, whether physical or emotional, leaves particularly deep scars. When a child experiences the terror of being left behind, Either literally or through emotional withdrawal, they often develop a desperate need to be indispensable to others. They become masters at making themselves seem incredibly important, special, or needed, because the alternative, being ordinary and potentially disposable, feels like death. Arrested emotional development. Here's a concept that might blow your mind. Arrested emotional development. When trauma occurs during critical developmental stages, parts of the person's emotional growth essentially freeze at that age. So you might be dealing with a 40-year-old who has the emotional regulation skills of a 7-year-old, particularly around themes of worth, attention, and love. Childlike behavior in adults. This explains why narcissistic behavior often looks so childlike when you really examine it. The tantrums when they don't get their way, the inability to handle being told no, the constant need for reassurance and attention. These are all strategies that might have worked for a hurt child, but become destructive in adult relationships. Responding with wisdom. Understanding this doesn't excuse harmful behavior, but it does help us respond with more wisdom and less reactivity. When someone is demanding constant validation or acting superior, remember that underneath that behavior is often a person who never learned they were valuable just for existing. The path to healing. The most important thing to remember is that healing is possible, but it requires the person to be willing to look beneath their protective armor and do the hard work of rebuilding their sense of self on more solid ground. It's not easy, but it's the only path to genuine connection and lasting peace. If this resonates with you, whether you recognize these patterns in yourself or someone you love, remember that understanding is the first step toward healing. Share this video with someone who needs to hear it, and let's continue breaking the stigma around mental health together.